Ramhethop was a little bit stressed right now. Okay, he was very stressed right now. He thought he might be challenged for this task, but now that the situation presented itself, he realized he was way out of his depth. Finding oneself in a role beyond their capabilities was a surefire way to get demoted. Being a settlement manager, he was supposed to be level-headed and rational, yet he couldn't help but shake with trepidation. When he first received the notice of an official visiting, he thought it was a member of the Industry and Development Bureau. At that time, it made sense, as it had been ages since the planet was ready for the next stage of development. But bureaucracy tends to eternize proceedings. Hence only then coming is in the norm for them, though a bit early. However, the sender, his good friend Isserus, added in a footnote to de-shelve his ceremonial wear. Ramhethop thanked the foresight of his friend, for he wouldn't have guessed he should when he received the details of his visitor. This species official came all the way from their side of the galaxy. Human space was a good week of travel away, which was too long for most. Of course, politics required those travels sometimes. Hence why one was never seen here until now. Humans weren't exactly new, but they weren't old either. They just never ventured much beyond their territory, for reasons only the divinities know. So, one of them coming here, to this specific planet, is a surprise, out of the depths of the trickster god's mind himself. This world has yet to be industrialized. Nothing of worth to be shown, nothing of wealth to appeal to. To Ramhethop's eyes, the sand hills and the oasis deltas were a poor sight for an industrialized society. But Ramhethop wasn't an ambassador, nor a noble. He wouldn't know what the human dignitary was looking for. The human dignitary. He still remember when he tried to guess the role of the one he was going to meet. Will they be a diplomat? Will they be an ambassador? A minister? A marshal? Although the ship that docked in the scheduled bay was a regular liner, Ramhethop waited by the rear access point. Most dignitaries opted for private cruisers, but lower-stationed officials couldn't afford such luxuries. Maybe they are a bureaucrat, he told himself. Oh, how he was wrong. The human that exited the ship surprised him out of his shell. It took every ounce of discipline to not let his knees buckle under him. This human was garbed in the softest-looking and most colorful wear that he had ever seen. This must make them a king. Ramhethop couldn't fathom why they came in a common ship, but he couldn't be found lacking in the presence of royal breed. He tried his best to appear at ease in his own robes, but with the way they looked at him, he knew he couldn't fool them. Still, he tried to remain professional as the human approached him. As the monarch stopped in front of him, they effortlessly dropped their heavy luggage, thumping loudly on the floor. Ramhethop bowed deeply in respect as he greeted them. Welcome to Akmergada, 96th settled planet of the Pharaoh New Kingdom's Council. I have been notified of your arrival. As such, I am here to help, if you so wish. He left the introduction at that, since he didn't know human customs. So the next best thing was to lead with his, which he wasn't important enough to offer his name. Just as he straightened back, the human wrapped his appendages around him tightly, while apparently laughing. How's it going, big guy? It's hella rad here. Can't wait to see what you're all about. The overtly friendly behavior unsettled Ramhethop, but he powered through. Unfortunately, we are still in the process of establishing infrastructure. So may you forgive this one for not being able to let you tour as you please. He knew they surely felt his chitin was not as hard as it's supposed to. Dude, no problem. I just needed a quiet place to be one with nature. The human royal's speech was strangely lethargic, as they didn't look impaired in any way. There was a drawl that almost seems on purpose. Return to my roots, you know. The idioms they used were as unfamiliar to him as any other. So from those words, Ramhethop guessed they wanted a remote lodging far from the populace. We have a few residences free to be used upstream, if you'd like. They're a bit far from the settlement, but are well equipped. Damn, a crib all for myself. That's crazy, yo. They said as they grabbed their effects. Though that's nice of you and all, but I'll stay out your legs. I'll find a pretty nice place to stay. As you wish, please come this way. Bramhethop was still not understanding the idioms, but guessed as much he could from what he did. This inability could affect the relationship between the two species, as Ramhethop felt his chitin softening because of stress. He also wasn't sure, as they walked, if the human monarch was falling or not. The way they were swaying and bobbing like a spring was misleading. No part of the human's body looked straight or stiff. They were a being of curves, flowing like the river through the sand. Ramhethop couldn't wrap his head around how their center of gravity worked, as it would change so much. His kind would have fallen as many times as the human made steps. He wondered how they were so strong, yet so soft at the same time. Oh, how strange their world must be. "You, scarab guy, I've been wondering for a bit," they asked with interest. Ramhethop shook his shell under his robes, thankful that it helped hide his emotions. "Ask away, esteemed one." He honestly wished they wouldn't ask about anything but the management of the settlement. However, reality puts him in a position of weakness. Only the colony overseer would know everything, but one wasn't appointed yet. Nonetheless, he prepared himself for the question. "Why you the only one I've seen with clothes? Like, is it a culture thing or a love thing?" Bramhethop stared back at them for a moment before shaking himself back into a professional demeanor. He decided to give them the textbook answer. Whatever those two concepts had to do with his apparel, he had no idea. Textile is a difficult product to obtain, dear guest. As such, only the wealthiest can afford its price. I assume you have more access to it. It would make sense then that the human monarch had twice as much as his own rulers. "Yeah, we make lots, dude. Crazy how it goes sometimes." They chuckled as they shifted the heavy luggage on their back. "So what's your thing, man?" "Pardon me." Ramhethop didn't quite comprehend what the ruler meant. Was it what he owned? Was it what he did? "Like, are you gonna follow me everywhere, or you have like, a desk I can ask?" they clarified. Ramhethop hesitated. Under normal circumstances, he would have followed. It was common courtesy after all. However, he didn't want a panic attack from not being adequate for the task, which he felt was coming rather fast. He knew he wouldn't be able to answer the questions that are sure to follow later if he doesn't have the answers with him. So, he chooses the best solution. For him and for appearances. "Unfortunately not, I have much work to do." That was a lie, all his work was done. He just wasn't qualified for what followed and didn't want to be here anymore. "So if you need me, I will be in this complex during the waking hours," he finished while gesturing to an office tower. The human king pointed a thumb to the sky. "All right, man. See you whenever," they said, waving back as they made their way towards the coastal wilderness. An errant thought passed through Ramhethop's head as the human disappeared. If they found a resource that he didn't know of after the prospecting, it would be bad, as he would have to answer to the council for why it wasn't in his report. Ramhethop still was stressed out of his shell as he looked where the human monarch was a few moments ago. Why was it a ruler that came instead of any other official? He didn't know. What were they looking for? He didn't know. Why come so far if they probably could find whatever they were searching for elsewhere? He didn't know. He hated not knowing when he should know. Unfortunately, fate saw it to put him in a place where he couldn't. Ramhethop felt his chitinous shell for reassurance. It did not help. The give it had from his touch was too much an indication of how anxious he was. Having a soft shell was never good. Ramhethop prayed every god he knew for the human king not to find anything worth or not be disappointed. Or else, he might really lose his shell. Lewis liked this place. He saved a lot to come to this oasis world. He didn't want to be disturbed by other humans while he was on vacation, so he found a virgin world far enough away to relax. Well, almost virgin. According to the guide, it was in development. Nonetheless, it was still beautiful. Nature had the kind of charm that really makes him free of any burden. Well, that and the weed he brought along, but that doesn't matter. While he mounted his tent under the tree line, he recalled the species that claimed this planet. It was still a bit weird that they went buck naked, but he gathered he'll get used to it in no time. Especially since they were so polite. Not one bothered him, they answered to his questions without a problem when he asked. The guide also respected his choice, not pestering him for tours just to get more money out of him. This was incredible customer service. Lewis finished by installing his beach lounge chair and parasol near the crashing waves. The wind here was so pleasant and rich in oceanic aroma. He felt his Hawaiian shirt flutter around him. His bright swimming trunks that he put on that morning before disembarking the liner were flapping like a flag around his legs. Lewis sat on the chair with a satisfied grunt. He closed his eyes and thought to himself that he probably could bring a few of his friends next time around. Then, they would have fun. Better not turn into a naturist beach. Letting out a small chuckle, he put his wide-brimmed hat on his face, took a large breath of fresh air, and sighed in happiness. Life is good in paradise. The author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.